Good evening and a very, very warm welcome to you wherever you may be. Thank you for joining us here on the Geelong Region Soccer Show for Season 5 and Episode 101 of this iconic weekly program that takes a look at the local football scene in Geelong. My name's Tonchi Prusak and I'm with you tonight. Normally there'd be two of us, but unfortunately over the off-season, my trusty co-host and sidekick Steve Curtin, he decided to move up to the Big Smoke to Melbourne, but he will be seen regularly every Sunday night as part of the Football Out West Show podcast, which is our sister podcast, that one there. And he will be regularly there on a Sunday night. So big thank you to Steve, who was heavily involved with this show over the last 4 years. Yeah, 4 years. How quickly time flies. We've got a real major announcement that's going to be made very shortly after the news desk. And there's going to be a whole heap of announcements throughout the night. We are on the lookout for a presenter, a co-presenter, and so we'll talk a bit later on about that. But look, thank you so much to everyone that's showed any form of support over the last few months with regards to keeping this program running, this forum active, because sadly here in the Geelong football scene, we've got so much talent, we've got so many positives, and the stories just aren't being told enough, and it's just not enough. So we need the support of all the clubs. We need the support of all the sponsors. We need the support of all the football fans in the wider Geelong area to come on board and to really, really make this an iconic program. First of all, I need to shout out to several people here that are jumping on board. Santimo Mamone, the guy from Corio Soccer Club, he's an icon. He keeps on promoting this show, really pushing this show. I really, really do appreciate everything that he does for this show behind the scenes. Folks, we're going to take a very quick short break. But before we do that, this is what's happening on the show tonight. We have got a live cross out to England, to London, for a major announcement. We're going to reveal who the mystery sponsor is, who the mystery backer is. And let me just say, with this announcement, this is groundbreaking stuff for football in Geelong, but most importantly for the young talent in Geelong. This is going to provide a pathway. It's going to provide opportunities that are at the moment unfathomable. Can I get that word out right? Very, very excited. So that's one major announcement. That's going to be shortly after the news desk, about 8:15. Second guest will be the Surf Coast Soccer Club Women's Senior Coach, Mark WYETH. He'll be joining us to talk about the local community league, which will be kicking off this weekend. We'll be talking about the revamped, restructured, and highly controversial women's division, which includes 15 teams in the one unified division. Good thing, bad thing? We'll talk to Mark about that. We'll also talk about some of the growth of the game, and particularly down on the Surf Coast with his club, Surf Coast FC. And we'll also take a look at the structures of the competition kicking off this weekend. And we'll also then later on, well, this young fella, he's only 20 years of age. He has already experienced overseas football, European football. And as part of our mantra this year of taking the world game from a local to a global level, our last guest for tonight epitomises everything there is great about the world game and the global appeal. Young NICKOLAS SKOTNICA, who made his senior debut for the Geelong Soccer Club on the weekend in their NPL 3 clash against Caroline Springs George Cross. 2 penalty saves, 2 world-class saves, and he also assisted it with the last-minute goal that was scored in the 93rd minute to just create an earthquake of noise at Stead Park on Saturday night. NICKOLAS will be joining us a little bit later on in the show. So it's an action-packed show. Folks, strap yourself in. We got a huge one coming, and it starts with the news desk straight after this. Well, it is the news desk, and we are looking for a presenter. We'd love to have someone who's going to present the news each week like Steve Curtin did last year. So we're going to get straight into it. And look, we're going to go straight to the NPL Victoria competition. And the highest-ranked club in the region, North Geelong Warriors, are struggling at the moment. On the weekend, they came up against Dandenong Thunder, and they had their chances, many chances. They just were not able to capitalise. And in the end, we saw Dandenong Thunder run out 2-1 winners over North Geelong. It was a game that, well, it was a 6-pointer. And I had the pleasure of commentating this game for NPL TV. And if ever there was a game where the Warriors could have won and should have won, it was this game. Aidan Gardner was the sole goal scorer for North Geelong Warriors. Marvin Brawela missed a penalty late in the game, and young talented teen Luke Zivcic almost had a header that went onto goals, but unfortunately it was just not the case and did not happen. NPL 3, and there's the Geelong advertiser from today. Late strike seals thriller. Geelong SC claims gripping injury time victory at Stead Park to vault into the top 4. For those of you that are able to read that, I'm sure if you could go on the Geelong Soccer Club Facebook page, there's a copy of today's sports article about that win. But Steve Janoski summed it up beautifully when he said, what a way to announce yourself. I'm really happy for him. 2 penalty saves and 2 more world-class saves, and I don't say that lightly. What more could you hope for on your league debut? He was, of course, talking about our guest for tonight, NICKOLAS SKOTNICA. The crowd was absolutely bonkers, the loudest I've witnessed ever at Stead Park, and then to win it deep in injury time was nothing less than amazing, says Steve Janoski. As far as the men's state league competition, Corio also struggling at the moment. This is a very, very tough division, and on the weekend they just didn't have any luck against I think it was it Westgate on the weekend? And they find themselves now at the foot of the ladder. But look, Corio, hopefully they'll be able to pick themselves up in the coming weeks. Really important that they can try and do get some good results. And it was Banyul City that they lost on the weekend to 1-2 at home. Vedran Stojanovic scoring the only goal there for Corio. This week they host a very, very tough opposition in Sydenham Park. That game is going to kick off at 5 p.m. So if you can, get down to Hume Reserve and do your darndest to help the boys as far as them getting over the line. Geelong Galaxy on the weekend recorded their first win of the season, 6-0 thumping of Monbulk Rangers. So after 3 consecutive losses, Geelong's highest-ranked women's team now find themselves with a win to their name. They've moved up to 7th spot. They have played 1 game more than some of the other teams around the competition standings. But as far as returning back to men's state 4, Surf Coast at the moment are flying very high. They're currently in 2nd position on the state 4 ladder. 3 wins, 1 loss. They're just 1 point behind Moonee Valley Knights, but they seem to be doing very, very well. And we'll be talking a little bit later on to the coach of the Surf Coast women's team, Mark WYETH, and he'll be talking to us a little bit about the influence of former Socceroo Adrian Leijer, who has also become involved with the Surf Coast Football Club. Folks, we're going to take a little bit of a break. When we return, we'll look at the local leagues that start this week, and well, we'll have a look at the league structures, and then we'll talk a little bit more about that with Mark WYETH a bit later on. Welcome back, folks. We're still on the news desk. There's so much to talk about, so much to get through. And look, let's straight away get through with the local competition. Sometimes the local competition of the Geelong Region leagues don't get a lot of publicity. And in fact, if we're going to be honest, they don't even have a proper name. So we call it the Geelong Region Men's League and the Geelong Region Women's League. But the competition doesn't even actually have a proper name. But let's have a look at the structure this year. It has been revamped quite a fair bit. In the men's Division 1 competition, Geelong Rangers and Barwon Heads have been promoted, or the best way to describe that is they've nominated for Division 1. So kudos to Rangers and the Hammerheads. It's great that we've actually got an 8-team competition. Last year was just a 6-team league. So going through that, Division 1 sees Bell Park, Breakwater Eagles, FC Leopold, Geelong Rangers, Surf Coast, Barwon Heads, Armstrong United, and Barwon Soccer Club as well. In Division 2, we've got a 10-team competition there, and it's great to see Lara United this year are able to field 3 teams in total. Probably would have been a good idea if Lara United had have nominated for Division 1 to maybe add to that. And whether it's Deakin University or whether it's Drysdale or one of the other clubs that have got multiple teams, I would have loved to have seen a 10-team First Division competition. And in fact, there are 9 clubs between Division 1, Division 2 and Division 3 that all have 2 or more teams. So naturally, you're talking about a senior team and a reserves team. Down the track, could Division 1 be only a competition which includes teams that have got a reserves team so that there is always going to be a double header? Who knows? But Division 3 has 11 teams. So in total, we've got something like 29 teams in the men's competition, which is pretty good, pretty great to see. It has been inflated with teams such as Bell Park. I think it's Lara United possibly, and someone else who are going to field an under-18s team as well. The Geelong women's competition, well, here's the controversy. All 15 teams have been thrown together. So this has been a little bit, unpopular with some sections of the football community here. Others have accepted it, but these are the teams that will make up the Women's League this year. Deakin University A, Deakin University B, Golden Plains, Lara United, Barwon Heads, FC Leopold, with a little bit of an asterisk, and we'll talk about that shortly. Corio Bay, Surf Coast, the reigning Division 1 champions, Ballerine Sharks, Drysdale, Geelong, Bell Park, Armstrong United, and Surfside Waves. Now, as we speak, there is a special meeting going on at Estuary Reserve with FC Leopold, the women's team. Apparently, they only had 12 players registered, and as a result of that, they were going to make a decision whether or not they're going to proceed with having a team or whether they could attract a few more players, because obviously with 12 players in the squad, it's not ideal. That is definitely the case. Definitely not ideal. So Look, that's what's going to happen. Supposedly, at the halfway mark of the season, it gets split into Division A and Division B. So whether it's the top 8 and the bottom 7, or 7 and 8, that I'm not too sure. But that's basically what is happening. So, in essence, this weekend, the junior leagues kick off, the local men's competition, the local women's competition, and the Metro Juniors as well. So there's going to be a lot of football being played this weekend, and we cannot wait. It is going to be it's the start of what we hope will be a very, very exciting, action-packed winter of local football. Now, we're going to take a very, very short break. When we return, it will be time to cross over to London, to the old Dart, for a major, major announcement. That's all I'm going to say, folks. Stay with us. The big announcement is coming up on the other side of the break. Welcome back to the Geelong Region Soccer Show, and we did promise you over the last few weeks, over the last month or so, that there's going to be some big, big things happening, big, big changes. And today, on our first show back at Season 5, we've got a massive announcement, ladies and gentlemen. As you know, the Geelong Region Soccer Show was basically finished, kaput, as they would say in German. It was come to the end of the road, and we sought out support, an aid, an assistant hand, if you like, manna from heaven, whatever the case may be. And then certainly that saviour, if you like, came, unfortunately, not from within the Geelong football community, but it came from someone from outside the Geelong football community. In fact, it came from someone interstate, but the connection with Geelong is most certainly tangible. We're going to now cross over live to Liverpool in England. And we've got Ray Wood from Euro Football Stars coming live from, it seems like from the top of the world there. Ray, first of all, good afternoon to you, because it is morning, or good afternoon, early afternoon there in the UK. But first of all, welcome to the Geelong Region Soccer Show. We've got some huge announcements tonight. But firstly, welcome to the show. You've been on the show before, and great to have you on again.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Thank you for the introduction. And just so we get it right, I'm in London, not in Liverpool. We don't get sunshine like this in Liverpool.
Well, I was hoping with that thick Liverpudlian accent that it would be more a case of in Liverpool. But first of all, mate, before we get to what you're doing over there in the UK and in Europe in general, but some very, very exciting things. Euro Football Stars. Now, Euro Football Star. We've some of the juniors in Geelong have already had a little bit of an involvement with Euro Football Star. But tell us a bit about yourself and a bit about the organisation EFS.
Yeah, I've been involved in football, professional football, for over 25 years. Some of the clubs that I've worked at, I've been very fortunate when I was younger to work at clubs like Liverpool, Leicester City, and more recently Paris Saint-Germain. My wife and daughters are Australian, so hence why I live in Brisbane in Australia. And I set up the company when I come back from PSG in 2015. And we've seen a little opening in the market where we thought we could come in and assist and help and aid the development of football players and just try and open up some of them pathways. One of the big key things we noticed at Euro Football Star was that the cost involvement in football in Australia. So we set to task how we could try and create as many free programs as possible. We've done that since 2015, and we now offer pretty much 80% of our programs are completely free of charge. And as we just touched on, I was very lucky to meet the Zilic family many, many years ago and seen the wonderful community and that Croatian community that you guys have got in Geelong. And it was something that attracted me down to that area because it just reminds me of my roots growing up in Anfield and Liverpool and living side by side with Everton Football Club and Liverpool Football Club and Tranmere Rovers, and yeah, just set up some amazing relationships. And we just want to really help out with the football community in general in Australia, but more so as well, especially in that beautiful community down in Geelong.
Now, a lot of Geelong juniors have had the opportunity of experiencing the objective testing, and that's one of those free programs that Euro Football Star does offer. And the purpose of the program, and what are some of the things that for those uninitiated to the program, what are some of the things that are undertaken in those objective testing sessions?
It sort of drew out originally in 2012 when I was at Leicester City and in conjunction with the English Premier League. And we had designed what we called a football IQ test, which is where our objective testing come. And what we wanted to do is, no matter whether you're a beginner player, you're a boy, you're a girl, or you're an advanced player, we could do a test where we could formulate a plan and to show your strengths and weaknesses. And then from that plan, we'd share your data and we can then help you get better wherever you are on your journey. And that was one of the areas that we've implemented. And when you come along, it's a real fun test, as you've seen yourself. It involves physical, technical, and tactical areas of football, and it only touches on the edge of it. And then it enables us to have some data on those players and then actually guide those players with some free feedback, a free playing report. And also, we've now got online free videos and tutorials, which again is completely free of charge. And the beautiful thing with our objective testing as well, we're currently giving away 16 places for 2024 to come all expenses paid to Europe with us to the home of the Premier League. So what that means is we select 8 boys and 8 girls, and based on their stats and data that we gather, and we look at what we call future potential. We don't just look at the best players for the particular age group, and then we take them on a all expenses paid trip of a lifetime to the UK. So we think we are a completely unique program, and it's completely free of charge for anyone to come and try it.
Mate, the amount of opportunity for young players and talented young players these days is incredible, and we've seen some talented young footballers in Geelong at all levels, boys, girls, representing not just clubs at NPL and NPLW level here in the state, in the city, but also playing for state representative teams and whatnot. Not. So the sky's the limit for a lot of these youngsters. But mate, you're on here for another reason as well, and we're going to hand the spotlight over to you. You've got a major announcement tonight that is going to be made for the future, not just of the Geelong region football area and the youngsters there, but for this show as well, mate. Over to you.
So we'll be talking about in relation to the sponsorship?
Yes, that's the one.
Exciting. Yeah, so look, we're pleased to announce we've been working with you guys and speaking in the background for the past couple of weeks and months. And I think, if I'm honest, the sponsorship opportunity we spoke about pre-COVID, and it was something that we really wanted to get involved with. And we're really excited to announce that not only are we going to become the major sponsor of the podcast down in Geelong, but also we're going to be investing as much money as possible and pumping as much money financially back into the area, and to bring the Geelong Soccer Region completely as one of the pinnacles of soccer in Australia, which we already believe it is. We've seen some of the talents that you've got down in Geelong, and in those boys teams, we've seen a lot of very, very talented boys. But one of the scary things that we seen a few weeks ago was I've not seen as many talented female football players as we see when we come down to do the testing. And we thought this is an area that we really need to promote and help you guys promote, because if people see a lot of the success stories coming from Geelong, then people might start to show an interest and go, well, what are they actually doing in Geelong? And they might try and replicate some of the ideas that they're doing in that football community. So we're really excited to announce that we've put in place sponsorship for a year to become the major sponsor, but our view is to be the long-term sponsor for the next 5, 10, 15 years.
There you have it, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been working so hard in the background to save the show, and thanks to Ray Wood and Euro Football Star, we've managed to do that for this year. But the big news is, the huge news is, we've prided ourselves over the last 5 years of building a brand, building a product that's really taking the global game, well, in some cases, the local game globally, and that's exactly what we're doing. And we're going to announce tonight that as of today, this program, this podcast will now be known no longer as the Geelong Region Soccer Show, although it'll still be a major part of the podcast going forward, but it will be known now as the Game of Two Halves podcast, because it's going to have a global element to it, and it's also going to have the local element. So in the local element, we'll still be covering everything that's great about our game locally, but it's also going to give us an opportunity to tackle some of those issues that maybe don't make the game so great but could, and the potential. So we'll be looking at it more from a magazine style discussion point of view, as well, as opposed to just news. But the global part of it, which is going to be heavily collaborated with Euro Football Star Ray, that's an exciting one. We won't at this point mention too much about it, apart from in coming weeks and possibly next week, we'll be coming live, not from London, but from where? And we've got some major announcements with regards to that as well. Tell us a bit more about, well, next week's global game element of the show.
Yeah, so obviously we've come live yesterday from the Etihad Stadium from Manchester City versus Liverpool. Today we're going to Wembley to come live from Bolton Wanderers versus Plymouth. But the real exciting news, where our first couple of podcasts are going to come live from, we've got a very small game that gets played in Spain, and that's between Barcelona and Real Madrid. So we're going to be coming live from the Camp Nou. We're going to do a pre-game talk, and we're going to talk about some areas around football in Europe and in Spain, and that relate back. And also, we've got another small game that we're going to be coming live from the following week, which is a Champions League matter, and that's Real Madrid versus Chelsea. So there's those two superpowers coming together in both those games. We've also, just a little bit moving forward, we've just done a deal with UEFA and the Champions League final. So every year we're going to be coming live from the Champions League final. We're going to do a whole week of podcasts. This year we're going to be coming live from Istanbul and Turkey. And it looks like my predictions are it's going to be Manchester City versus Napoli in that Champions League final. So we'll see if that comes to fruition, and that will enable us to bring the Champions League all the way to the home of Geelong.
The Game of Two Halves, folks. It will be focusing on the world game locally, but it also will be taking the local game globally, and we'll be looking at, the universe is the limit as far as this podcast is concerned. Exciting times. We're absolutely thrilled with what this means, and we're going to take a very, very short break just to calm our excitement, because there's so much going on here. Cannot wait for the second part of this interview with Ray Wood, who's the head of Euro Football Star. When we return, we'll be talking a little bit more about some of the business elements of Euro Football Star as well. And, mate, we'll just give you folks a chance to digest this announcement. It is massive. It's huge. It's one of the biggest announcements we've ever had to make over the course of these 5 years. And quite frankly, I'm that excited. I need to go off and get a break, stretch my legs, get a drink, and come back. We'll see you very, very shortly. Geelong Region Soccer Show, or now as it is known as the Game of Two Halves. And we are talking with Ray Wood. He's coming to us live from London in the UK. Prior to the break, Ray, a huge announcement, and we are very, very grateful for the collaboration, for the major sponsorship that Euro Football Network has embarked on us here at the Geelong Region Soccer Show. And we're talking about what is coming up, but let's talk about back to Euro Football Star and the two key areas of Euro Football Star, because there's for sort of a football sporting side of it, but there's also a business side of it as well. So tell us a lot more about Euro Football Star.
Yeah, two of the key areas that we're driving towards over the next 12, 18 months. One of them is our objective testing and what we call our professional player pathways. And again, what we've done is we've designed up a free program where we will families and players to contact if they've got a son or daughter, or if they aspire to become a professional player. Just relying on the FFA and their pathway model isn't always enough, unfortunately, and they've got a big job on their hands as it is. So we thought we'd come in and complement and help that. And what we've done is, through my experience working in the Premier League, working in professional football for 25 years, we've got an opportunity for any player aged between 11 and 23 to arrange a free live Zoom call with myself, and we actually take them through our professional player pathway. At the end of that conversation, we then speak with them about opportunities to come on that program, and we've even got scholarships available for that program as well. So again, we've got a lot more investment and a lot more money. And what we do is, with the professional player pathway, we actually take them through that journey over 12 and 18 months and what they need to do to become a professional player. But then at the end of it, we also open up those pathways overseas for them to go and experience and play the game, and also hopefully then go on and play WSL or Premier League football later down the line.
Yeah, let's talk about the junior development situation, or let's talk about the just the overall football landscape in Australia. We know with the A-League and the A-League men and A-League women's, there just seems to be not enough of an opportunity here in this country to be able to create or to carve out a professional career for aspiring juniors. And the NPL system below that, there's been all this talk about national second division, a second tiered competition. Can you see in the next few years the opportunities for young footballers wanting to turn professional, opportunities becoming a lot more abundant here in Australia? Or look, at the end of the day, a player is just simply going to have to turn their back on Australian clubs and competitions and head towards Europe and try and make something of it over there in Europe?
I think really my take on this one is, I get asked this question a lot, and I think in Australia we've got to understand that football's so young. It's probably 25 to 30 years old, if we're really, really honest. In comparison to like where I am now in England, I mean, football's over 100 years old. I mean, there's some football clubs that are over 140 years old. So I think if we firstly look at it that way, we actually have to respect that where we are in Australia, and that we can't expect the FFA to do everything. And it is frustrating sometimes, and there's moments where I understand players and families get frustrated. What we're doing is we're trying to just give them a second option. So in basket one, you can follow the normal route of the FFA pathway, but also we're trying to give them that second option. And I'm a big believer in that. If players go overseas and make it successfully in Europe, it's going to benefit Australia long term, because what it's going to do is it's going to strengthen the Matildas squads. It's going to strengthen the Socceroo squads. And I think we've already seen, a case of it in the World Cup that's just recently passed in the Men's World Cup, where you've got players who are now signing for clubs like Leicester City, where I used to work, who are now playing in the Premier League. And in turn, it's going to strengthen the Socceroos. And hopefully one day, players will see the A-League or the W League as the more attractive option. But at the moment, the attractive options to go into Europe and play football. And I'm a big believer in environment actually develops players. And if those players are going in with stronger players, then they're going to develop into better players. And I just think we need to realise where we are at the moment in Australia in regards to how old football is. And I think if we look at it that way, I think it gets rid of a lot of the frustrations that people have, and just understand there's more than one option. But whichever way you choose to go, it still benefits Australia, and it still benefits the the national teams, which is the key point.
Absolutely, and we're even seeing here in Geelong, there are youngsters that have gone over to Europe in the last 12 to 24 months, and we've also seen there's some of them are coming back. I know down at Geelong Soccer Club, the reserve goalkeeper now in the senior men's is young NICKOLAS SKOTNICA, who's gone to Europe on several occasions and trained and trialled and and then he's come back a better person, a better player. And they say travelling broadens your horizons, and certainly in this particular case, Ray, having that opportunity for these talented kids and youngsters, and as you said, there's a lot of talented young female footballers as well in Geelong. Giving them an opportunity to travel abroad, open their horizons. I mean, it must be an incredible experience. And tell us maybe some of the kids that have gone through Euro Football Network. How has the travel abroad, the experiences that they've experienced as part of these trips to Europe, how has that helped them shape them as young aspiring footballers and people for that matter?
Yeah, we've worked with a lot of players over the years, and we actually had a group of about 3 or 4 boys who come with us on a trip to the UK maybe 5, 6 years ago. And one of them boys was from Geelong, and he's since been with us on 2 trips to the UK and Europe. And I think from an experience point of view, just to open their eyes to make them understand how hard and how tough it is here, but just the level of the football's at. And I think purely just on the numbers, and we just spoke about the age of football in Europe and how old it is, the game, and how much more experienced they are. And it just really does broaden the horizons and helps them in all aspects of the game. And I mean, those 3 or 4 boys originally that we had 5 or 6 years ago, I mean, 3 of them are now playing on that professional pathway. They're playing with top academies in the UK. One of them's even just turned, he's only just 16 years of age. He's from Geelong, and he's only been in the UK, I think, for 8 weeks or 9 weeks, and he's already flew overseas to Dallas to play in the Dallas Cup. Now, a lot of people in Australia won't know what the Dallas Cup is, but just to put it into perspective, the Dallas Cup is the biggest junior football tournament on the planet. You've had players like Zinedine Zidane, Mbappe, David Beckham, all played in the Dallas Cup when they were younger. And it is the pinnacle to put yourself in the shop window with all the top scouts from around the world. And I just think it's such a big achievement to have a boy come out of Geelong and to be playing in the Dallas Cup. And this wouldn't have happened without mum and dad's, perseverance, pushing him to develop his game. And I think that comes from the cultural backgrounds of being Croatian and that European element. And then obviously, it was just fate that we were so lucky to catch up with this family at the Gold Coast many years ago, and he'd done our objective testing, and we then spotted him and sent him overseas. And there's just a great example. And I don't think his mum and dad will mind me saying it. When we identified him, he was definitely a really good player, but he wasn't amazing. He wasn't the finished article. And through his hard work and perseverance, he's now, I mean, I'm so excited for Benji. I think he's got such a good chance to make it as a pro player, and it's scary, and it's good for me, because this is what I decided to do back in 2015 when I left Paris Saint-Germain. I realised that I want to be involved in people's lives and to help them as much as possible. And I just thought there's 1,000 Ray Woods in Europe, and I thought if I could go back and live in Australia with my wife and my daughter, and we could try and help the football community to grow and develop and promote opportunities, and it's all coming to fruition. It's a very good place we're in at the moment, and I'm very excited to help all these youngsters.
Well, that young fella in question we actually had on this show way back in season 1. He came on the show with his dad when we did a live show from the Bell Park Soccer Club, or the Bell Park Sports Club, and that young fella, Benjamin Zielich, and he's moved on there to bigger and better things. And look, I remember the kid went to school where my little boy was. I think my little boy was at prep at the time, and he was at Holy Family School in one of the grade 6s. And some of the kids at prep and grade 1, I remember what they watched that episode of the Geelong Region Soccer Show way back in season 1, as I said. So that's going back 4 years ago. And he was an actual what's the word? He was an actual inspiration, and still is for a lot of kids, knowing that, look, you were yesterday playing with this kid in the schoolyard, or you're playing alongside him or playing against him on local fields, and kids like that. Other kids that come to mind, Anthony Leban, Niki Vladovic, Luka and Noah Skorka as well, who are in Croatia as well. Kids that, yesterday you went to school with them, now they're on the other side of the world. doing what they love doing best. So it provides that inspiration. It's amazing. So we are going to be talking about kids like that. We're going to be talking about the next generation. We've got so much to cover in the weeks and months to come along, and we'll be spending that all as part of the Game of Two Halves, Ray, thanks to Eurofootball Star. And is there anything else you'd like to say to all the viewers of the Geelong Region Soccer Show, now known as the Game of Two Halves?
Yeah, just that we feel so privileged to feel like we're really part of that family and community, and our aim is to try and give back and give as much as we can, and to try and grow in the confidence of some of the parents that when we are coming down, that we are doing a great product for them and giving them an amazing opportunity. And yet we're just going to try and strengthen that relationship over the next couple of months and years. And yet we've got some exciting news ahead. There's too much exciting news actually, but we're going to save it a bit at a time, because we've just been in a lot of meetings the past 72 hours in the UK. And some of the things that we've unearthed in the past 48 to 72 hours just blows my mind at how nice people are over this side of the world and how much they love having the Aussies across. And yeah, we've got some huge news to come out in the next couple of weeks.
Well, folks, it may seem that we're very kind of subdued as far as our emotions are concerned, but we're being very professional here, Ray. We're trying to keep a lid on things, but really deep down, we are absolutely pulsating with excitement. And folks, you should be as well, because this is huge, not just for the Geelong Region Soccer Show, but for Geelong football and taking Geelong football to a global stage. It hasn't been done. Nothing's been done anything like this. And thanks to Ray and the crew there at EFS. Yep, as they say, dreams can come true, and will certainly be over the course of the next 6, 12 months, maybe the next 3, 4 years, doing exactly that, trying to deliver a whole heap of excitement and I don't know, broadening the horizon for many generations of young players to come. On that note, Ray, we'll let you go, because you've really made our day, made our year today. But thank you so much, and we look forward to again catching up with you next week from Barcelona.
Thank you. Thanks for your time, guys, and I look forward to speaking to you next week from the home of the new camp, Barcelona.
Good on you. Ray Wood coming to us live from London in the UK. He's from Eurofootball Football Star. And huge news, folks. We're going to take another break. When we return, we'll continue with the local part of the game, the local game as part of the tale of the Game of Two Halves. I'm so excited, I can't even talk. We're going to have a short commercial break. Back with you very, very shortly. Welcome back, folks, to the Geelong Region Soccer Show, which is now known as the Game of Two Halves. This is what we've been itching to tell you about. We've finally been able to tell you about it. The Game of Two Halves, powered by the Geelong Region Soccer Show, and will continue to be powered by the Geelong Region Soccer Show with our major sponsor and major backer, Eurofootball Star. How exciting is this? Pop your comments in the comments section wherever you are watching this, whether it's in YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. We've got about 10 different platforms as well that is coming across. So wherever you're watching it, wherever you are tuning in, thank you so much for doing so. We're going to be talking to our next guest very, very shortly. But before that, are you the next Les Murray, Lucy Zelich, Adam Peacock, or even Tara Rushton? Would you like to be a presenter on the Game of Two Halves podcast and become a household name? I am looking for a sidekick, someone to present various segments. And if you think that you have got what it takes, send in your application to communitysportsmedia@gmail.com or private message us via our Facebook page, Geelong Region Soccer News. And the more creative the application, the better it is. The more it's going to be looked upon favourably. So that we'd love to have some females apply, maybe even a junior or two. Who knows? But we certainly want to unearth the next media personality in the Geelong football area. And as we just saw with what is happening with Euro football star with Ray Wood there, coming to us from London, not Liverpool. A lot is happening. A lot is happening. Now, folks, we're not going to take a break any longer. We're going to get straight into it. It's time now for the local game. And our very, very first guest in the local game segment is the coach of the reigning Geelong Region Women's Division 1 competition winners from last year, Mark WYETH. Mark, good evening, and fantastic for you to join us on our first show back in 2023. How are you?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Tonchy. And yeah, congrats on the news about the new sponsor. It's fantastic news.
Yeah, I think, look, I'm personally really excited about the opportunities that this collaboration is going to provide a lot of the talented young kids. But for those kids that have had an opportunity to be part of the objective testing as well, it's also an opportunity just to see where they can improve and what they can do. So a lot happening in that area. Now, mate, before we get into and we talk about the local competition, at your club, Surf Coast, talking about junior development, there's been huge developments in that field in the off-season with the appointment of former Socceroo great Adrian Leijer, a proud local who lives down Janjak Way, as the football director at the Coasters. Mate, that is absolutely fantastic news. And tell us what's that actually involve? And we're going to have to get Ado on the show. He's been a past guest here. Yep. But what's his now involvement as far as the club is concerned?
Yeah, thanks, Tosh. Look, and it's amazing news, and it's not just news. We're actually seeing it on the ground. So just the other day, he's been down there running a coach the coaching course. So he's got all our mini-roos and hub coaches down there and developing them. He's been running clinics over the summer, like academies and things over the summer, and right through the first term as well. So just amazing to have someone of his ability and have Ado involved in the club. I was just talking to one of our seniors, and he's going, "Oh, Mark, you wouldn't believe it. Before the games, he's in there. He's giving us, taking us through different things. He's giving us some just amazing insights as to how we can improve." So everything right from our senior man, our state league team, all the way down to the little attackers running around sort of thing on a Saturday morning. It's just fantastic for the club to have someone of his ability be part of the club. And that partnership we've got with covert coaching as well, which he's a part of as well. And it is really a partnership between the two. It's not sort of something that it's all about the club, it's him as well. So just fantastic. And we're really, really stoked to have him on board because he's just bringing so much to the club and to the Geelong region as well. I know he does a great job, not just at our club, but at other locations around the region. So just fantastic. So, yeah, stoked.
Yeah, no, it is great news, and look, someone of his caliber being able to impart his knowledge and wisdom onto some of the younger players in the region, that's awesome. But I guess the other thing that really, and we've seen with some of his holiday clinics, his weekend holiday clinics or school holiday clinics, that's been just amazing. Some of the caliber of guests that he's got. I know Stephen Lustig was one. I think who else was he getting? He was getting some really, really big name players coming along, and that's just so, I don't know. It's just amazing to see, actually.
Yeah, and look, I was down there a couple of weeks ago on the Saturday morning when they happened to do their makeup day. I think it was their breakup day for one of the end of the first term, and the numbers of kids were down there and they were just having fun, and it was just huge, and the smiles all around and those kind of things. So you look at that and go, that's just great. That's great. Kids having fun and learning from really good coaches, not just Ado, but his whole crew. Just fantastic for the game at Surf Coast, but also for Geelong region as well. So it's great.
We're seeing some footage of the weekend game that the Surf Coast men came up against, and a 4-0 win there. It was an absolute fantastic result there. Second on the ladder, doing really, really well at the moment. Great to see. Before we talk about the women, let's talk about the blokes there. It's great to have, Ash Dafter. He's the coach. He's the senior men's coach. He's a very ambitious coach. I've spoken to him on numerous occasions in my role as Geelong Advertiser, a soccer scribe. But some of the players that he's attracted there is incredible. But the pathway now for both boys and girls at Surf Coast to get right to the top there of the senior men's and the senior women's, and who are both performing so well. Like, the club must be, I won't say euphoric, or maybe it is euphoric. What is the feeling down there at Banyule Warrior Reserve at the moment?
Oh, look, it's really positive. Ash has been just a fantastic addition to the club. He brings, Ash, he just brings so much energy, and you can see that. That we train the same time as our senior men's. The amount of energy that's next door, you can hear it. You can hear them. He's fantastic. The professionalism has brought to the club as well. It's just made a huge difference, and I think that's why you get players coming into a club, because they want to be part of that culture. They want to be part of that energy that he's put in. So people don't come with coaches just because they want money or anything else like that. They actually want to be part of something special. So now, look, it's been a fantastic, and you're seeing it on the park, like you're seeing it with the performance that the team are putting in. It's showing by the efforts of Ash, of Ado, and then all that support team around them. Just doing a fantastic job, and we're attracting some great young players, but we've also got a heap of young ones as well who are homegrown Surf Coasters as well, who are coming back to the club, which is just fantastic. Like, I'm seeing faces around and going, hey, I remember when you played juniors for us, and you've gone away and come back as well, because you're hearing about what's going on and you want to be part of it. So that's a really good place to be at the moment for our seniors, and for those, as you say, the under 15 boys, the under 13s, seeing that go on and go, hey, look what's going on with our senior men. I want to one day play there, so if I work really hard, I can actually be part of that as well. So no, it's good.
Yeah, we talk about a lot of positive things at the moment in the Geelong region. And we can harp on the negatives, and there are always negatives, and we can always whinge and complain. But let's sort of look at some of the positives as well.
Yeah.
And look, one of the positive stories of last year was Barwon Soccer Club getting promoted to State 4 men's competition. And now this weekend coming. So, they've had a kind of a sort of a indifferent start, 2 wins, 2 losses from their 4 games. Bell Park are doing really well in that division. Yeah. Unfortunately, Golden Plains pulled out before the season started, and as we can see there, Surf Coast occupying second spot. But this weekend, folks, get yourself down to Grovedale Reserve on Saturday night, 5:15 p.m. kickoff. Barwon taking on Surf Coast, and Christian Mahon making his return back to Grovedale Reserve, this time in the colours of Surf Coast. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of friendly rivalry, of course. Ash Dafter, another ex-Barwon product as well. So it's going to be fantastic. Expect a massive crowd. That's on Saturday night. But also this weekend, mate, let's talk about the local competition, the Geelong Region competition. We spoke about the men's competition earlier in the program, and also the women's division, the structure. But you're the reigning champions, reigning women's Division 1 champions. Firstly, how are you looking? And tell us a little bit more about this, this unified competition. I'll put the slide up there. There are all the teams taking part. No doubt there are going to be changes from now until maybe the start of the season. There may be teams pulling out. There may be other teams entering. Who knows? With Football Victoria, we don't know. I guess it's not totally their fault when sometimes clubs pull out last minute, or they enter teams and whole fixtures have to be changed. But first of all, let's talk about your team, Surf Coast senior women's team. How are they looking? Any new recruits? Have you lost any players?
Yeah, look, so it's been a bit. We have had a bit of a bit, not turmoil, but we've had a bit of a change over the summer. So we've had a few leave us, and a few of our really good players as well. So which we were sad to see go, but they're going off to other things and other opportunities as well outside football, which is great. So we absolutely wish them well and hope they'll come back and play with us again when at the right time as well. So, but that's okay. We've got some new recruits as well. So we've got some really exciting players coming in that have really gelled really well. I mean, we had a practice game against Deakin on Saturday, and it was just it was great. They played really well together, gelled. We were playing some great combination play through the midfield and those types of things. So that was fantastic. We had 2 or 3 of our juniors playing in there as well, and we've got a couple who've come up from juniors up into seniors as well this year. So, and they're really exciting. Like I was talking to the Deakin coach and pointing out one of the young players, and he can believe it, like how young she was. So just fantastic that we've got some real talent coming out of our junior ranks as well. So look, I think it's going to be interesting. You don't really know until the season starts really where you're placed. We've got Bell Park first round on Saturday. So that'll be interesting because obviously they did really well last year in Div 2. So yeah, it's a danger game. I'm absolutely taking it seriously that we don't know, we didn't play them last season. So we're absolutely taking them seriously. It should be really good. Looking forward to that, getting back on the park. It'll be interesting.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned first up game against Bell Park. That's at 5 p.m. On Saturday. Well, Saturday evening, I suppose. So that's unfortunately it's the same time as the men, isn't it? But it's great to see Bell Park actually in the off season. They erected some brand new floodlights up there at the Bell Park Sports Club in Batesford. So playing your first game under lights, is there a bit of an excitement factor as well, playing under lights as well, compared to maybe a normal sort of traditional, 2 p.m., 3 p.m. Saturday afternoon kickoff?
Yeah, look, absolutely. It's always fun to play at night under the lights. It's always exciting. So, yeah, looking forward to the start of the season, getting back out there on the park. So, look, as I say, the team's pumped, ready to go. We had a really good off-season. Had a couple of practice matches and they've done really well as well. So just looking to see how we can go and get the season starting off and get into it.
Do we know much about Bell Park? Because I've heard on the rumour mill a lot of players have crossed over to Bell Park from other clubs, namely Geelong Rangers. I think they're local community league side, and they picked up a few other recruits from other clubs as well. So, do we know much about the All Whites?
No. Look, I don't know too much about them. So, yeah, as I say, I'm taking it. I'm not taking it for granted as well. I expect it to be a really tough game. It's going to be really, and it's going to be really interesting how this whole. I mean, you mentioned about it's going to be all 15 teams or whatever teams work out in the first. I think it's the first 9 rounds, and then we split after that. So yeah, it's going to be interesting how that plays out, and see who make the sort of that top 8, top 7, top 8, and then who's in the bottom half as well, and then we'll crack on from there. But all you can do is turn up each week and put your best foot forward and see how we go from there.
Now, it's been pretty controversial. There have been calls from various sections of the women's footballing community who have very up in arms and not happy with what's happened. But look, when you look at it, Football Victoria, I guess I'm not going to sort of be here to sort of stick up for Football Victoria, but I'll call it as it occurred. And the facts are that there were only 5 clubs, maximum of 5 teams that actually nominated for Division 1, and the rest of them nominated for Division 2. Now, in that situation, I know the regulations always say you got to have a minimum of 6 teams to form a viable competition.
Yeah.
And it's simply put, clubs don't want to play in difficult this division. I get that. I understand that. But we're talking clubs, not teams. And if a club gets promoted, then it's up to the club to recruit players who are strong enough. And if they're not, well, they're going to endure the fate that North Geelong now is enduring in NPL 1, where they're on the bottom of the competition. They'll probably get relegated and they'll go back to NPL 2 next year. But what's your take on this whole unified format for this year?
Look, and you're right, Tonchi, it's tough. I don't think there's an easy answer. It's tough if you're the bottom of that Div 1 and sort of struggling. Although last year there were no easy games, like there were no 10-0s or anything like that. They were always really tough games. I think we played Rangers in the second last round and only beat them 3-2 or something. So it was a really close game. But it is tough, and obviously if you've had a season where you're down the bottom of that Div 1, you don't want to have another one like that sort of thing. but we've all been there as well. And I think it's hopefully we can look at it from a lot. To me, we need to take a long-term approach to it and go, hey, what can we set up longer term and agree as a region? Because logically you want two divisions. Having one big division doesn't make sense either, because you've got those teams at the top of Div 1, who are on top of Div 1 playing a team at bottom of Div 2. That's not going to be fun for anyone involved. It's not fun for the better team. It's not fun for that team who are struggling as well. So I think we've got to work through it. It's going to take a little bit of time. We'll see how this plays out. And hopefully we can have some get together and have some really good discussions around a long-term plan and give some, I think maybe for me, give some certainty as well around knowing that if you're down that bottom, that you're not going to be down the bottom the whole time. You're not going to be just getting flogged every week and season after season after season as well. So, but I think you need that long-term view, not what's going on this season, I think. And because at the end of the day, you want to have everyone enjoying it, having fun. And if you're having players who are not having fun because they're getting beaten every week, and that's season after season after season, then they're not going to stick around. So you're going to lose players and you're going to lose teams. So it's about trying to get that mix right so that all the players out there are having fun, enjoying it, playing good competitive football as well, I think is part of the enjoyment. But so I think it's hard. It's not easy. Otherwise, we will solve the problem as well. But I just hope we can continue to work on that and talk about that in future seasons down the track.
Yeah, well, looking very, very quickly at the first round, Corio Bay taking on Golden Plains at Evans Reserve on Friday night to get the women's division competition up and running. Bowen Heads at home to Armstrong United. Deakin Ducks, one of the Deakin Ducks versus FC Leopold. Bowen at hosting Surfside Waves. That one's going to be an early game at 1 p.m. on pitch 2. Deakin Ducks, the other team, taking on Geelong. Bellarine Sharks at home to Lara United. Great to see Lara United have also got a team. And they had to field a reserves team this year because they've moved up to Women's State League 1. And as we mentioned, Bell Park hosting Surf Coast. Whilst we're talking about Women's State League 1, that kicks off this weekend as well. And we've got North Geelong, we've got Lara United, and Geelong Rangers have now also gone down the same path that North Geelong did last year and received a double promotion from State 3 all the way to State 1. We've got 3 local clubs now, all in State 1. As we mentioned earlier in the show, Geelong Galaxy just earned their first win or recorded their first win in BPLW. All these Geelong clubs going up to Melbourne and having to now field reserve teams. Is this good or bad for women's football in Geelong?
Yeah, look, I think it's great. I think having that pathway for our local players, whether it's juniors looking towards that or our local players as well. So, I mean, you have to be positive around it. To have Galaxy plus 3 State League 1 teams just shows how much strength we've got locally. You're right, it does put some pressure on some of the other clubs as well, because those 3 State League 1 teams are now looking for reserves teams as well. Plus some have got local teams as well. So yeah, it does put a bit of pressure on, I'm sure, but to me, it just opens up opportunities. You know, like in Surf Coast, we want to get there one day, and we're going to take the similar path to what North Geelong and Rangers, where they built from juniors and been really strong when they do it. But we've also got some players who played juniors with us that I coached, like Bailey's over at North Geelong and Nava's over at Rangers, and they both played juniors with me down at Surf Coast. But I'm stoked that they're having that opportunity to play in a State League 1 club in Geelong, and they've got that opportunity. And hopefully one day when we get up there as well, they'll come back and they'll play for us as well. So I think
no doubt.
You absolutely have to look at it from a positive perspective, and we'll put our pathway together as well as we grow. We've got fantastic numbers in juniors this year. I think we've got teams in every single age group. We've got multiple teams in the 15s. I think the same in the 13s as well. So you look at that, when they come through, we'll have that numbers, we'll have the groundswell of talent to be able to push for State League as well in the future as well, and we can be up there as well. So absolutely, and we want to do the same thing, create a pathway for our young players as well. So good. I just think it's been awesome to watch. The Rangers, the North Geelongs and co, how well they've done. How awesome it is to see our young players going there and being successful and winning leagues and getting promoted as well. It's just fantastic for the Geelong region and for female, female.
Yeah.
It's just
and whilst
whilst
we're talking about female football in Geelong, it's the year of the Women's World Cup.
Yeah.
I expect mid-year there to be an explosion of interest of young lasses and young boys wanting to play, because it's already grown, as we've seen, and this is going to be real. It's going to be a huge year. Folks, for those of you that don't know, Mark WYETH is probably one of the most nicest blokes around the Geelong football scene. He's very rarely going to say anything bad about anyone or anything. So asking him to say something about that's critical, we're not going to happen. But look, there is so much to be positive and so much to be excited about in Geelong. One interesting little side note about the Women's State League One competition is that it's going to pit father and son against each other.
Wow.
With the Geelong Rangers head coach, Tony Horrocks, up against Lara United's head coach and his son, Ryan Horrocks, and Ryan's fiancée, who was last year playing at Geelong Rangers, Rachel Zara. She's now come back to Lara. So that is going to be really, really interesting when it comes to Derby Day between the Rangers and Lara United, and I'm sure it's going to be very, very friendly. Well, it's families involved, so no doubt. Then again, it might depend on the result. Mark, thank you so much for your time today. Great to have your presence on our very, very first show back for 2023. The Game of Two Halves, you're officially our very, very first guest in the local segment of the Game of Two Halves, and we thank you very much for being a part of today's show.
Yeah, thanks, Tonchi. And look, just stoked to be part of your first, your first one for the season. So, and good luck for the rest of the season. And happy to come on anytime and have a chat. Good
on you. That was Mark WYETH, the Surf Coast Women's Senior Coach. We're going to straight away get into our next guest. He made his senior league debut on the weekend just gone by, and it's NICKOLAS SKOTNICA from Geelong Soccer Club, the reserve goalkeeper who stepped up after the regular goalkeeper, Thomas Josifovski, was sick last week. He was battling a lurgy, wasn't able to recover in time. Young Skotnica stepped up, and, geez, did he do a brilliant job. He's going to be joining us very, very shortly. He's in the green room, about to come on. But here's a little bit of highlights from Saturday night at Stead Park. Next guest in action, and what a baptism of fire truly was for this 20-year-old goalkeeper who was just the man of the match in last Saturday night's big NPL 3 clash at Stead Park when Geelong came up against Caroline Springs' George Cross. 2 penalty saves, 2 world-class saves, and he was also involved in the last play of the day when he assisted Jesse Devers scoring a goal in the 93rd minute to give Geelong a 2-1 win over Caroline Springs. Absolute pleasure. Our second guest of the returning episode of the Geelong Region Soccer Show is young NICKOLAS SKOTNICA from Geelong Soccer Club. Nick, welcome to the show, and great to have you on the program. It's been about a couple of years in the making trying to get you on the show, but we've finally managed to get you on the show. How are you after Saturday night's euphoric display between the sticks?
Oh, really happy. Thanks for having me, first off. But
pleasure.
Yeah, just take the 3 points and move on to next week's games.
Yeah, now we saw some of that footage there, and we'll show some more footage there as well. But let's go through some of that footage. Here's another penalty save there. But tell us what was happening. You know, what was going through your mind?
Just to save it. That's all. 100%. Just make the save. Keep us in the game.
And could you hear the crowd, like, or did you just block it out of, so to speak? But Steve Janoski, the Geelong soccer football director, he was telling me yesterday it was the loudest he has ever heard Stead Park. It must have been a thrill. But yeah, at that split-second moment, could you hear the noise, or did you just block it out and focus on what was happening in front of you?
Yeah, the atmosphere was really good. But no, I have to try to block it out as much as I can. Definitely heard it. It was a good crowd, good atmosphere.
Yeah. Mate, 20 years of age, you've experienced a lot in your tender years. Let's sort of talk. Let's tell us a bit about your football career so far, your football journey. You started juniors was it at North Geelong Warriors first up? How old were you when you first started?
Yeah, so from 4 years of age, started playing. Obviously, the small side 5v5s in the mini goals.
Yeah.
And then when I was 8, got thrown into goals one time, and I guess I just stuck with it.
Have you stuck with it the whole time, or were there moments where you dabbled in outfield play, or you knew right from the age of 8 you wanted to be a keeper?
Yeah, pretty much 8, 9, just from the start.
Yeah. Now, after that, you went through the ranks. You got to various selections, state selections, and what you're not. Dabbled in. Did you play futsal as well at one stage or something like that?
Yeah, a couple like Victorian football, held in Sydney, I think. When I was younger, that was a lot of fun, as well as the outdoor state competitions.
So you were keeper in futsal as well, were you?
Yeah, I was. Yeah. That was more of a fun thing to do.
Yeah. How did that help though with the obviously the faster paced action of futsal, really having to work on your reflexes and your quick thinking? Was that something that helped your outdoor game, or was it something that you kind of almost, as you said, you did it just for fun, maybe with mates or that sort of stuff? But how much of it did it help, or not really as much as one would think?
Definitely like what you said, like the reflexes and like quick thinking, things like that definitely help in outdoor. But apart from that, it's completely different technique for diving and stuff like that.
Yeah. Now, moving up through the ranks of juniors and then coming up through to NPL, when did you kind of really know you wanted to take this seriously? Like, obviously, you would have had lots of mates that you grew up with, and knowing a lot of your mates, they all went down the path of elite football, or some of them went down the path of elite football. But for you personally, when did you really know that this was something that you wanted to pursue really, really seriously?
I think just how much you enjoy it in terms of wanting to play or train each day. That was probably the major thing that I looked at.
And what about mates? How important was it to have mates that shared your passion?
Oh, really important. Friends like Anthony, Lucas Walker, overseas there.
Anthony Leban, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, and those two are now currently overseas as well. We'll get to your experiences overseas, but you went through Holy Family at primary school and then later on at St. Joseph's, is that right? So both schools with a pretty strong footballing soccer pedigree. Did you spend many a hour during the lunch breaks having kicks in the yard with the mates and players from other teams, etc., and stuff like that?
We had like school soccer for like year 11 and year 12, but COVID was my year 12, so that was called off, unfortunately. But yeah, through lunchtimes here and there, it was good fun.
Yeah. Now, you then towards the end of your teen years, you actually had an opportunity to go overseas on a couple of occasions. Tell us about that. This is a really fascinating story.
Yeah, so I was in the UK for about a year and a half on and off.
How old were you then when you first moved there?
So I was 13, 14. To around 16. So I think, 14 to 16.
So what did you do there? Did you continue schooling there? How were mum or dad with you, or were you there on your own? How did you find that all of a sudden, overnight, virtually, that you've left everything that back in Geelong, all the comforts of home, to go to the other side of the world when you just turned. You've just become a teenager, when most kids are more interested in weekend parties and having a kick with their mates and school and this and that. You've actually moved on the other side of the earth, on the other side of the world, to pursue your footballing passions. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, it was obviously a big decision to do that at the time. My parents obviously came up with me at the start, and then obviously when it was all good, would go home here and there. So I'd be not by myself. I was with other people, kind of like other football players, goalkeepers in particular. I trained mostly at Accrington Stanley with the goalkeeper coach there. They were at League Two at the time. Training every day, minimum twice a day.
So
sometimes.
is that part of the academy system, as part of the academy program over there, was it?
Yeah, that's correct.
Twice a day, as a 13, 14-year-old, training twice a day.
Yeah, it was a lot.
That's living the dream, isn't it?
Yeah, didn't really have to worry about school too much. I was doing online school, but obviously soccer took the priority.
Yeah. Now, were you living with a foster family, or was there someone there that was kind of looking after you guys? Was it a boarding school type of arrangement there at the academy? How did you actually, away from the football itself, how did you live?
Yeah, so it was like a place where like there was all other like football players. So I was with people from my age to say 25, few people at a time, all from different parts of the world. That wanted to do the same thing, and they wanted to have the opportunity in England, like I did. And yeah.
And how'd you get selected? Was it something that you and your parents sent through, maybe an application, or was it you got scouted, or how did that come about? How did the opportunity arise?
Yeah, it was a bit of both. Inquiring as well, and then them wanting to see more, and then just going from there.
Yeah, brilliant. Now, you also had an opportunity to train with Liverpool and West Ham United, amongst others. Now, that is every kid's dream, or unless you're a Manchester United supporter or Man City. But training with Liverpool, training with West Ham United. All right, explain. Please elaborate.
Yeah, so the goalkeeper coach that I was with at Accrington Stanley, he used to be England's goalkeeper coach for the juniors. And he had connections into Liverpool, and they needed keepers for trials and training. So I was probably there, up to 4 months, training at least once, twice a week with them.
Yeah, fantastic. How exciting is that? Was it tough? Let's be honest. Was it tough? Like the other competition from the other players, the coaches, the keepers. How difficult was it adjusting to that, workload, and to that standard as well?
I think it's just the professional environment. Like everything's down to a fine line. Training times, where you have to be on the pitch, warming up, gym work at this time. They take like pre-activation really seriously. Just things like that.
Now, mate, obviously anyone going to the other side of the world, in the prime of their teenage years, is sacrificing a lot socially, friends-wise, family as well, all of that kind of stuff. How did you find that? How did you find that to cope? Was it difficult at times, or was it great being away from mum and dad and the sisters and younger brother? Did you feel that sort of sense of independence as well? Take us through some of that off-field, I don't know, life as a young budding footballer.
Yeah, well, you definitely develop independence from being by yourself or with other people, for that matter. Definitely overseas or far away from home. I didn't find it too difficult. Like nowadays, you've obviously got video calls that you can make whenever you want to talk to somebody. So you've always got that. Obviously, you don't have the physical side of it, but you can always talk to somebody. So that's definitely what I was using.
Absolutely. Now, mate, you came back to Australia. You had a stint with the Eastern Lions in the NPL competition in the under 21s, and I think it was, or the under 18 side. How long did that last for? And then after that, you had an opportunity to go abroad once again. So take us through that phase of your career.
Yeah, so I was at Eastern Lions playing with the reserves, so the under 21s. But that was during peak COVID. So it was like half a season and then got called off a few games, like pre-season. I reckon I had like 4 pre-seasons for that one season because it just kept getting called on and off. So I played a bit of football, but it wasn't the best time period. But what can you do when COVID came?
Hopefully, the worst is over. That's for sure. And then you went to a Division 2 side in Greece, Kalatea. Hope I pronounced that correctly. And you had a little bit of an injury problem there as well. So that would have been really, really tough. What happened there?
Yeah, so I had a previous injury where I had dislocated my jaw just from playing football.
So was that in a match or a training?
So the first time was both times were in training.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, the first time I just received the knock. Somebody's just gone through and kicked me. And then the second time, just from a dive when I'd fallen, landed on the side of my head. And it just popped loose again. So I had to get surgery.
On one of the, I think it was last year, or it might have been the year before, when we had NICKOLAS Vlahovic and Luka Skorko, 2 of your friends and former teammates who are now in Croatia, and they were describing how life over there in the lower leagues in Croatia is, and I remember vividly where they said it's such a dog-eat-dog world. I remember Luka saying that, dog-eat-dog world, that even in training, players go really hard, and in some cases you're up against directly a teammate for that one spot, and so it's no holds barred. And did you find that, obviously in training you sustain those injuries, but did you find that in Europe that's probably the big difference, that it's always full on intense, be it training, be it a match, whatever the case may be, compared to maybe the laid back approach of football here in Australia? Or have I got it wrong?
No, it's definitely cutthroat. I would say it's probably the same here in Australia. Probably more
Is it
so.
really?
Probably
Yep.
more so in Europe, just because of the abundance of leagues that they have. But yeah, you definitely have to be on top of your game, especially in trainings, just throughout the weeks, doing everything you can.
Yeah. And so obviously you had that injury. And what happened then? Did you come back to Australia after that? Was there a time of recuperation? How did you deal with all of that as well? Like, I mean, you're out injured. You've had this avenue to European football. The door has been shut. All right, maybe not permanently, but temporarily. How did you cope with all of that? Was it difficult to sort of come to terms with that injury?
I think being back at home helped with that, in terms of like being able to see all your family, all your friends that you knew for a while. So yeah, just came back, got the surgery done, recovered from that, and then back playing at Geelong.
Yeah, so how did that come about? So was that last year you signed up with Geelong, or was it earlier this year in the off season? When did that happen?
Yeah, in the off season, they asked me to come back to the club and sign there.
Yeah, so first team keeper Thomas Josifovski was out last week because he had battling a cold or a flu or whatever it was. He just wasn't able to recover in time. But as luck would have it, you were able to step in, and wow, in Steve Janowski's own words, what a welcome, what an announcement to the world. 2 saves, 2 penalty saves, 2 world-class saves, he said, and I quote, and I don't say that lightly, and then involved in the last play of the day where you're a clearing goal kick from your penalty box, went all the way to the other end of the field. Jesse Devers has got that just outside the box, if I'm not mistaken, muscled his way in. The opposing keeper, has made his way towards him and he's lobbed him. So what an incredible way to finish an incredible debut for you. Mate, you must have been pinching yourself that, it all happened in one game. What was it like walking off the Stead Park field and just seeing all those faces and a lot of familiar faces just pure joy, pure adulation, pure celebration. It must have been feeling like you're on top of the world.
Yeah, it was amazing. I think the main thing was just that we won the game. Set aside the penalty saves, just getting the 3 points at the end of the day, and just moving on.
And who do you play next week? And will we likely see Coach Ted Latomansky persevere with yourself in between the sticks?
I actually haven't had a look at who we're playing next week. I know it's an away game, but that's up to the coach.
Yeah, no, that's for sure, mate. Thank you so much for joining us this week. We really do appreciate it. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you and seeing, talking to you a little bit about your whole I guess your path up until now. There we go. It's North Sunshine Eagles, and can they get any tougher than that? That's going to be a tough game. A Larissa reserve next week. It seems like it's an early kickoff for some reason. I'm not too sure why. It says 11:15 a.m. I don't know. Is that correct? I'm not too sure if that's the case. But look, North Sunshine, they're going to be a very, very tough side. That's for sure. Either way, we look forward to that, and we'll certainly wish you all the very best for the year ahead. And thanks for joining us again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Good on you. That was NICKOLAS SKOTNICA, the young 20-year-old goalkeeper who made his senior debut last week for Geelong against Caroline Springs George Cross. Folks, that brings us pretty much to the end of this show. It has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very, very much for being a part of our very, very first episode for 2023 of the Geelong Region Soccer Show. Wish you all the very best in the next week or so, and to all those teams, local teams, starting their seasons this week, particularly all the young juniors out there. We wish them all the very best. Thank you very much for joining us here on the Geelong Region Soccer Show. We'll have your company again next Monday night. But in the meantime, we've got the Crow Soccer Show happening on Wednesday night at 8 p.m. and then the Football Out West Show next Sunday at 8 p.m. They are our sister shows. So until then, good night. Thank you very much.